We're having a series of summits addressing this phenomena, which is rapidly making us think that girls' and women's bodies will never be allowed to exist as they are, which is where the term endangered species comes from. We've got 6-year-olds feeling terrible about their bodies. We've got 50-year-olds, we've got 75-year-olds who've never actually felt comfortable in their bodies and who spend a lot of time trying to create something that will be acceptable in the world. No matter that they look great, their internal experience is one of, I've got to perfect this, I've got to change this, there's something wrong with me, whether it's their labia or their nose or their hair or their breasts or their buttocks. And although it can sound like a really trivial preoccupation, it's really stealing the childhoods of our children, and it means that young women are paying a hell of a price for being out in the world because there's constant preoccupation. Well, I hope that it will be the beginning of a really big campaign that will change consciousness, that we need to change visual culture so that we see women and increasingly men represented in much more variety, because I think what's happening to young men is not so pretty either, so that girls and women can find themselves in visual culture and not become this morphed, perfected, narrow image of femininity, but also so that we can bring into being programs that can help people, like help new mums. They are the person generally in the family that transmits everything about how you can be in the world and who you are. And I think mums can help their kids by being very aware of their own issues around bodies and food. The less they go in the mirror and say, I look awful, I'm too fat, I shouldn't eat this, the less young girls will grow up thinking that's the way that you should be. And the more that women can talk about emotional issues rather than body issues, I think that will really help their kids. If you talk to any marketeer or advertising exec who's been around a long time, he or she will tell you that they need to sell on the basis of there's something not all right. And I think if you look at the advertising of men now, young men, it's very it's got that same sort of look of I'm disinterested, but you can't have me, but you can have me if you play with me, this kind of a way. And on the back of that is a lot of commerce, which is commercializing men's bodies in the same kinds of ways, and encouraging men to think that they need to look at themselves from the outside rather than from the inside and from their accomplishments. The whole notion of perfection is a kind of troubling aspect of us as a society not being able to deal with variety and some kind of dread that we're imperfect. Well, you know, I think those are the wrong parameters to be thinking about, perfect, imperfect. I'm actually more interested in uniqueness and the way in which, whether it's one's walk or one's writing or the way one's eyes twinkle or express the very essence of who you are. We live in a capitalist world, and it's idealist to think that we aren't going to have products selling to us. The question is there any ethical basis? Just as we're looking at sustainable fashions, sustainable materials and reasonable deals for workers who are making those fashions and having fashion on sustainable bodies that actually can breathe and eat and be different sizes. So that's going to be true with all aspects of the style industry. What's the ethical way to do it? What's the way that's unjust? And we know what the unjust way is, and that's what we have to stop, and that's why we're having endangered species.